Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Micon podcast. I am Seun Okinbaloye. The revised timetable by Independent National Electoral Commission is out, and with that, the race toward 2027 has quietly begun. The timelines are clearer, the political calculations are sharpening and shaping up, and the conversation that will shape Nigeria's future are already unfolding just before our eyes. But beyond the dates, deadlines, and party politics, there are issues facing our nation. What does the Electoral Act controversy mean for transparency and trust? How are Nigerians coping with a biting cost of living crisis? Why is there growing skepticism about economic reforms? And in the face of persistent insecurity, what exactly is at stake in 2027? Today, I'm joined by a passionate young Nigerian advocating for a new Nigeria. His name is Randy Peter Akah. Peter represents a growing movement of young Nigerians who are demanding transparency, accountability, and a governance system that truly works for the people. From the Electoral Act debate to concerns about economic reforms, he has been vocal and has also been on the street many times protesting about the need for structural change and citizen-driven engagement. This promises to be a frank conversation about governance, accountability, and the road ahead. Let's get into it, everyone. I'm joined on the Micon podcast by Randy Peter Akah. Thanks so much for coming on the Micon podcast.
Thank you for having me. Good to be with you, sir.
Thank you. How have you been?
Very well.
Not on the street today.
We are here. We are still Nigerians.
Peter for Nigeria.
Yeah. Maybe you should be shown for Africa soon. Or...
No, I'm still for Nigeria
okay,
for now.
Nigeria too.
until we achieve the Nigeria of our dreams.
Yes.
Well, you are one person, and it looked like you were doing a one-man show at some point about electoral reforms when it didn't even make sense when you were doing it. But now everybody understands why it was important for us to ask for electoral reforms. Would you say that your one-man campaign, one-man protest, has it yielded any result?
Every effort for a better Nigeria would yield success. And even if it doesn't immediately, it will eventually, because it's a project that must be fulfilled. You know, the mischief about Nigerian leadership is the fact that you see leaders who pretend to be committed to certain issues of governance but refuse to face the foundational basis. Every democracy is built on free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections, because that is one of the first points of holding public office holders accountable. There is no country in the world where the votes of the people count, where leaders act as irresponsibly and as reckless as Nigerian leaders.
Really?
Yes, the guarantee is in a fraudulent electoral process, because they know that with or without your votes, they have a way of coming back. Just take a look at the US, for example. President Trump has been there for just a little over a year. You would think he has been there for almost 2 years. He's in a hurry to implement his campaign manifesto, ending the war in Ukraine, in Gaza, foreign policy.
But there are local agitation against Trump in America.
Of course there will be, because he has to also attend to his people. And why there are agitations is because he also knows that by November of this year, the US system does not even give you four years. They will have midterm elections. The House of Representatives or the Senate can flip to a different party, maybe Democrat. It puts the person in power in a difficult position. That is the US president, who is arguably maybe the most powerful person in the world. The same way President Tinubu'S said, if I don't give you power, vote me out. Failed to give you power, but also failed to give you a system that should be able to hold him accountable. You must insist on that process. That is why whether this one works or not, it must work.
So when the president said that, there are those who will say, you can't say you are not voting. Don't you see what the president is doing? There are reforms here, there are reforms. It takes time for some of these things to happen. On that particular statement, which I like people to watch, the president actually made that statement. Let me remind everyone about what the president said at a time when he said, if I don't give you power, when I come back, don't vote for me. Take a listen.
Whichever way, by all means necessary, you must have electricity. and you will not pay for estimated bill anymore. A promise made will be a promise kept. If I couldn't keep the promise and I come back for second term, don't vote for me.
All right. Listening and watching what the president said, there will be an explanation because he said if he cannot give, but there's a proviso there. But the question is that can you say that the president does not deserve, because we know that power is a problem. There should be some level of excuse to say, well, things are working. There is some level of stability in power and electricity, but we need an overhaul of the system. Can you say that don't vote for President Tinubu because power has not 100% been restored?
I mean, saying don't vote for President Tinubu will be putting it lightly. There should be a legal punishment for every person that is serving under this kind of administration. The Tinubu administration and the current ruling APC government is weaponized against the Nigerian people. Every institution that should support human development has been converted. What we have today in Nigeria is an organized criminal enterprise. Government is organized criminality. So whether you talk about the judiciary, the National Assembly, institutions of state, when the president says, do not vote for me because if I do not give you power, a man who came, let us interrogate that issue and the actions of the president. You came and on the first day made the flippant statement and said subsidy regime is gone. You floated the naira, putting more people under pressure because of course cost of energy has gone up. And then we now said, let us talk about power distribution. As we are talking today, it was the Tinubu administration who said, because GenCos are being owed, there is not enough money, we need to put Nigerians into bans, ban A, B, C, D, and Z. Yet the debt owed to the GenCos and DisCos continue to increase to about 6.6 trillion. Mr. Seun Okinbaloye, as we are talking today, if you took out subsidy and said you wanted us to pay a price because it was criminal, what was the important thing to do? Should we not have a calculation as to exactly how much was being wasted on subsidy and let us know if it is reinvested into the power sector so that as it is today, we know that yes, we paid the price for removing subsidy, but then we began to generate stable power. South Africa generates about 35,000 megawatts of electricity for about 65 million persons. That is about 523 watts per person. Egypt generates about 35,000 for about 120 million people, give or take about 270 watts per person. Nigeria generates about 4,000 megawatts for more than 240 million people. That is less than about 18 watts for a person.
We actually generate about 15,000, but we cannot distribute
yes,
more than 5,000 or 6,000.
So that means we have a ministry of power that is only able to generate darkness. So you gave a ministry to a minister who is there to hold brief so that he can go and contest an election, and then you hear the Minister for Power tell you to make sure you turn off your freezers. But guess what? The same Tinubu administration decided to invest billions of naira to produce a solar panel to take the presidential villa off the national grid. That is the person who told you that he wants to give.
Is that the smart thing to do?
The smart
because
thing
alternative energy is the way to go.
Yes, I mean, that is why we are the gift that continues giving. Nigeria, we are the subsidy for the rich. So while Nigerians languish in darkness, more than 90 million Nigerians do not have access to the national grid. We are living in darkness. More communities will fall out of it. The president is living in a palace that is connected to a different source of power. And that person is telling you that he's a leader of a country. Just sit down to think about it for a minute. The president of the country took the villa out of the national grid because it is unable to sustain the energy or deliver power to him.
What do you want him to do?
Okay, no, I think...
What would you have done differently?
What will he have done differently? So who is going to provide the solar energy for us too? Who is going to create a solar farm for my own community? And this is the same person who is increasing taxes on Nigeria. A country where more than 140 million people have moved into extreme and multi-dimensional poverty based on your own economic reforms. So that is where Nigeria is today. So the people will have to endure. That means we do not have a government. We have self-serving people who are there for their personal benefits. The simple scenario about Nigeria that happened in 2023, let me give you this closest scenario. Nigeria was like the body of a sick person who was almost dying. Instead of handing that body over to trained professionals to treat and revive that body, the body was handed over to quack organ harvesters. You know, there are professionals who can do organ harvesting, but when quacks do it, Quacks who are only interested in taking out the vital organs to sell for personal gains. That is what is going on in Nigeria today.
Is that a fair statement to
It
make?
is worse than that.
For those who campaign and successfully or in some way won the election, and you think that that's the best way to... That they say they have good intentions for the country, that they are working hard to achieve those intentions. There are reforms hard, and there are a lot of institutions and countries of the world who are saying the way Nigeria is going is the right way to go. Economically, that Nigeria is on the right track.
So it is people who are outside that should tell Nigerians how we are feeling. Is Nigeria moving in the right direction for you, Mr. Seun? Are you better off economically today than you were 4 or 3 years ago? What exactly has been the benefit of removal of oil subsidy to you? That was the major policy economically of the President Tinubu administration. And you know where there is this opaqueness in government, policies and decisions, there is intent for criminality. Imagine a British Prime Minister trying to stop a regime as subsidy that had been for years. What would be the normal thing to do? Do you not think you should be transparent for people to know that how much have we been paying for subsidy? At the end of it, how much exactly will be saved from that subsidy? And then where will it be reinvested to? Is it okay to have that kind of information, Mr. Seun? Now, you can say subsidy regime is ended, but the question is, President Tinubu, is the corruption and criminality in the oil sector ended? Because the problem was not just the subsidy regime, the problem was the criminality in the oil sector. If you leave and take out the criminality, if you take it out, Nigeria can afford to pay subsidy. Social securities in the foreign countries are all subsidy. But guess what? Today we have the National Assembly investigating, according to NNPC report, more than 210 trillion missing from NNPC's own account between 2017 and 2023. The chairman of that committee, Senator Ali Wadada Ahmed from Nasarawa West Senatorial District, is supposed to be an opposition lawmaker from the ethics of the National Assembly. He has reportedly defected to the APC. They failed to announce it. The NNPC GM, Bayo Julari, was invited. He failed to appear. And guess what? President Tinubu granted and forgave a debt of about 5 trillion by the NNPC, an agency that is actively under investigation for corruption. If only NNPC we can be looking for 210 trillion. Mr. Seun, imagine what we'll be looking for if we audit NPE, NIMASA, NDDC, Custom, FIRS. Do not forget that NDDC was under investigation when the current Senate president was a minister. Remember the infamous Honorable Minister off your mic. So can you agree with me that not only do we have this, the current government is not just bad government, it is an affliction. The APC is a curse, and Nigerians must self-liberate. If not, if you allow a consolidation of this level of criminality, we are done for.
But it does look like, with the way and manner things are going, there's only one way. And that way is that Tinubu and the APC have consolidated themselves.
Yes.
The same party you are saying is the curse has worked so hard that it looks like there is an express way in winning the next election.
Yes. Do you know why? Because what we have is even political banditry. Unfortunately, Nigeria does not have a National Assembly.
No, we do. We have the Senate and the House of Reps.
Okay, in your opinion, what we have today is Tinubu's Daycare. It is a daycare for Tinubu's children. And don't take my words for it. Take the words of the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. He read the letter inviting them by the wife of the president. He said, the First Lady said we should come and have dinner with her. This is an invitation from a mother to her children. So are you aware that Akpabio is Madam Remi Tinubu's son? So if a mother, Remi Tinubu...
Maybe you didn't mean it that way.
Okay, well, I want to know the explanation. So if the First Lady, Madam Remi Tinubu, is their mother, who will be their father, President Tinubu? So what the National Assembly is there today to do is to ensure that they push the wheels and the privileges or whatever that are the opinions of the president, and not to become the hallmark of a democracy. And that is why during the Ramadan break, you could hear the Senate president telling the president that we are loyal to you. Mr. Seun, the National Assembly is the hallmark of a democracy. A person, an institution that should carry out oversight over other arms of government, see themselves as children of the head of the executive arm of government. So who is going to carry out oversight? Children oversighting their parents? So that is where Nigeria is today. And that is why all of the electoral issues, I'm sure you get into that and all of that, it went through the National Assembly. And you saw that President Tinubu, within less than how many hours after the bill was passed, he signed it into law. The best reason and explanation for that is because you co-authored the bill. So the bill only went back to where it came from, not where it emanated.
You have claimed that President Bola Tinubu fears a free and fair election, even in the face of defections from opposition governors to the APC. Given these defections and the shifting political landscape, do you believe the APC-led government is preparing to manipulate the 2027 election to protect its hold onto power? Because in the scheme of things, there seems to be some skepticism about how strong the APC is looking. But there are those who will say the opposition is lazing around where the ruling party is working hard. Can you blame the ruling party for working hard and investing a lot of people into their camp? This is politics.
You know, I think it is even unfortunate that we will have to discuss it in this light because government in Nigeria has become outsourced. So in Nigeria today, the US is helping the Nigerian government to fight insecurity. France is helping Nigeria to collect taxes. Then President Tinubu, the commander-in-chief, is overseeing defections from the other parties to APC. Let me make it clear, as I have said on other forums, if there are free and fair elections in Nigeria today, before 1 p.m. on election day, the defeat of President Tinubu and his APC gang will be announced. When you hear people talking about they have, and it is clear even in the body language of the ruling party, Mr. Seun, how can you have more than 30 governors, or let's say 30? No, the Adamawa governor has joined, so it is going to about 31 or 32 now. You have the entire National Assembly standing upon the mandate which they shall collapse. You have the judiciary, I mean, they were singing on their mandate when you went there, so they are probably also on the mandate. INEC is the only unofficial person standing on the mandate. You have law enforcement, you have the DSS. Who is afraid of free and fair elections in Nigeria? Why exactly is Tinubu and the APC afraid of one simple clause, mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results? That INEC in itself has said, we have the capacity to do. We have tested it. We are doing it. We only need a law, a legislation to back it. So if the government is so popular, you are a master strategist government, you have removed subsidy, we are making giant strides, we are making bold reforms. You know, it's called bold reforms. Under this renewed, you know, whatever that it is it hopelessness or hunger? That I don't know. So what exactly is the fear of the ruling party? If Nigeria has one man, one vote, the APC has 30 governors, that is 30 votes. Why is it important that when people defect, somehow it changes the calculus of a particular state? Mr. Seun, if the Rivers State governor then in 2023, Nyesom Wike, had not supported the current president, are you sure that the election result from Rivers State could have been different? Remember, with the benefit of hindsight, that in 2015, Buhari versus Jonathan won Rivers State with about 1.4 million votes. Fast forward to 2019, Atiku versus Buhari. Atiku won Rivers with about 420-something thousand votes, less than 450,000. Let's move 8 years down to 2023. Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, and President Tinubu. The person who won with less than 250,000. In fact, the results are not even clear. What happened? Did the electorate in Rivers State shrink with 8 years, or there are political actors who influence what happens, like we saw in Obiakpo, which the BBC has investigated? What the APC is setting up is a rigging machine. And the whole idea is simple. All of this confusion you see is part of the strategies to ensure that there is maximum voter apathy. With what you saw in Edo with the attack on ADC and Peter Obi, let Nigerians be cowed into fear. Ensure that less people or fewer people come, buy votes, write results, and do what you can do, the shenanigans. Nigerians must resist it, because if the people come out to vote, this government is out.
There are those who say the calculations are not just, the mathematics are not in the direction of your argument.
Okay.
That if you talk about political structure, the opposition has lost footing, has lost ground. And if you look at it traditionally, and it happens in several other democracies too, a stronghold in a particular place or region means the leadership of that particular place have a stronghold. And that's why in America, even the governors, the governorship seat of a particular state would determine how that state will flip in an election a lot of the time. So you look at it, Adamawa flipped, Enugu flipped, Akah Ibom flipped, and in so many other states of the nation. In terms of political structures, once this political structure is in line in one political party, that's usually traditionally how they vote. And you're thinking that automatically will change, and for some magical reasons, it will not just happen in 2027.
That is not usually, it is not automatic. It is a Nigerian rigging factor. Was the Labour Party in charge of Lagos State when Obi won Lagos State? According to even the PDP and other opposition party members, the figures announced are less than exactly what happened, not my words, other opposition parties. It is interesting that you mentioned America because it is not what is obtainable there in normal circumstance. Let us take the 2024 elections, for example. The US President Donald Trump won the US state of North Carolina. The person who was the president, the governor of North Carolina, was Roy Cooper. He was a Democrat. The Democrats voted for another Democrat governor, Josh Stein, as the governor of the US state of North Carolina, but did not vote for Kamala Harris to win and voted for President Trump. Go to Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, very popular Democratic governor. Trump carried the state. In Nigeria, it is because it is the strong men at the gate who influence the INEC electoral coven for rigging, which are collation centers. That is where the magic happens, and that is why everybody wants to go back to ensure that we have manual transmission or collation of results. It is as simple as that. So when you talk about opposition, the opposition in Nigeria needs to sit up. Because for you to put up the kind of opposition that was in 2014, there will need to be a coming together and a unity in purpose to ensure that you want to liberate the country and not for personal interest. But Mr. Seun, we must move the conversation even away from political figures to the people's opposition. Nigerians, we are the collateral for bad governance. Within just February, as we are talking now, according to reports, more than 320 persons have been killed in this country. Within the first 1 year of the Tinubu administration, more than 7,000 Nigerians were kidnapped and more than 4,500 deaths in this country. The APC is trying to bring a system of government that normalizes the daily killings of Nigeria, and it almost goes by as nothing. That is why you can hear that more than 100 persons are killed in Kwara State, and the president would attend the marriage ceremony or will be in a fishing festival in Kebbi. The same Kebbi State where the president has not been able to tell the world. Before children were kidnapped from Government Girls Secondary School in Maga, law enforcement were taken there, according from intelligence reports. Few hours before the attack, they took out the law enforcement. Till today, the Kebbi State governor, who by the way is an APC governor, is asking the president, Master Strategist Commander-in-Chief, who ordered security out of the government secondary school. President Tinubu has not told Nigerians. And we are hearing reports, according to the AFP, that this government is paying billions as ransom to terrorists to release Nigerians. And the terrorists in turn weaponize, get more weapons and ammunition. So it is an economic investment that insecurity has become. And that is the ruling party that you say that Nigerians will come out because one governor defected there. Let them come and meet Nigerians free and fair, and let's see where the votes will come
So the governors, in your own thinking, their defection wouldn't matter in 2027?
If there are free and fair elections, the defection of a governor is a defection of one person. Mr. Seun, is simple logic.
So 2027 election, do you think it will be a free and fair election?
2027, it is up to Nigerians to ensure that it is a free and fair election. INEC, as it is today, has become the weapon fashioned against Nigeria. They lack the capacity to conduct transparent elections. The INEC chairman, the current one, Professor Joash Amukwiton, is showing tendencies to be worse than Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, who gave us the glitches of 2023. So the only important notice we must serve INEC and the entire APC government is that if Nigerians are ready for their votes to count in 2027, not even INEC and any rigging machine can withstand it. Because look at even the result from, the Abuja FCT AMAC elections. You can see, out of about 900,000 registered voters, less than 70,000 people came to vote. Mr. Seun, less than 70,000 people. There is a deliberate attempt to ensure there is maximum voter apathy. So you know what will be used to rig the election if it is rigged? Nigerians will give up on the elections even before it happens. So a lot of people will be like, look, city girl, city township boys, everything is already captured. But the people must ensure and know that when people come out to vote, insist that their vote must count, the power of the people will always be greater than criminals in power.
Why do you sort of think that INEC may not be able to work for the interests of the Nigerian people?
Because INEC has not proven to have any level of integrity or transparency. Mr. Seun, the current INEC budget is about 873 billion from the National Assembly. Out of that amount, INEC said they'll be using about 200 billion for electronic technology. And with all of the back and forth that is going on in the National Assembly, did you hear INEC come out to put a statement and say, look, we already have the technology that we need. There will be no cause for saying that there will be no internet in any polling unit. Recently, a few days ago, the former head of INEC Voter Education, Barrister Festus Okoye, came out to say the entire conversation about technology or internet not being available is a sham. It is unnecessary. Every polling unit in Nigeria has internet. What internet facility does INEC want to procure with 200 billion? Who is interrogating it? If you cannot unbundle the INEC budget to know exactly how much and what one kobo is being spent for, who are the contractors in INEC, if I may ask? In 2023, do you know that every election that INEC conducts, contracts are awarded to certain persons to provide electronic technology in the tone of hundreds of millions? When these persons failed to deliver in 2023 and there was a glitch, Uncle Seun, who was prosecuted? Who was questioned? So we commit resources to the hands of people. Who are the persons who are contractors in INEC? Who are printing sensitive materials? What is the partnership and how does INEC move into NURTW to begin to move sensitive materials? What is the money being used for? INEC in itself has made itself a tool weaponized against Nigerians. But Nigerians must ensure that the people there, we must make it a duty to ensure that the job of INEC becomes one of the most fearful jobs for any person, to know that if you decide to go against the people, there will be consequences. So we must publicly ensure that both the names, addresses, and everything about persons who are working in INEC should be known to the people, and they must know that their loyalty is to country and not persons who are desperate for power.
Well, so this is the explanation, and the presidency has come out to say opposition should calm down. But whatever that is, the amendment to the Electoral Act, especially Section 60, sub 3, is to safeguard in case of any infrastructure, technical problem. We should have something to fall back to. You don't seem to agree with it, because you and your friends were on the street protesting that there must be real time, simultaneous, and electronic transmission of result.
What a shame. What a tragedy. A master strategist commander-in-chief is signing a bill, and the excuses given for implementing a process that will guarantee transparency is because you say there is no enough broadband. And we are not ashamed of that. So Nigeria is master strategy and is the giant of Africa in terms of corruption and criminality. Uncle Seun, the issue of internet and electronic transmission of results in Nigeria was foreclosed as far back as even 2018. The former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, wrote an INEC position paper on why it was necessary to use electronic technology, and in his words, he said, to reduce human interference. Do you know that Mahmood Yakubu had already met with the then NCC director, Umar Dambata? They set up a technical committee headed by the head of the NCC's own technical department, I think somebody Nick Dazang, and they invited telcos, MTN, everybody to come and help us with technical advice as to the support you give JAM to conduct CBT tests. And then we said, look, we have the National Assembly, when Speaker Gbajabiamila was still the speaker, invited some people. They said, no, we have 2G here, we have 3G. INEC told the National Assembly that, look, we are not telling you to pass a law on something we are not implementing. We have already conducted this in off-season elections in Edo, in Ondo, and other parts of the country. We only need legislation to back up an action we are actively practicing and have gotten more than 96% positive results covered from our own feasibility studies. Uncle Seun, why is President Tinubu arguing on behalf of INEC? Why is the National Assembly playing the devil's advocate? What is the mischief and what is the intention? If you say there is no technology, there is 1 year to an election, should any leader who wants to ensure transparency in his process not be mandating upon the system to say, how can it be done, as to saying, we cannot have it, so let us not do it? That is where you know that there is criminal intent. You know that this intention is not pure. This loophole wants to be weaponized. And Nigerians must rule and rally around that electoral.
How do you hope that they're going to use that as a means of weaponizing or rigging or manipulating the process?
Where have we had all the election malpractice and rigging that we have? Collation centers from EC8A forms. When you go, and that is why they will tell you that it is not people who vote who determine the result, it is people who count the votes. So by the time everybody votes and finish at the polling unit, they say, let us go to Ward Collation Center. Did you see the results from Obiakpo local government in 2023, sir? You covered elections. You have gone to Anambra. You know what happens. Have you seen where, I mean, even some of, journalists have become victims of when politicians go to hijack an entire collation center where they become physical violence unleashed at people. How can you have elections, Uncle Seun? In some African countries, we had military coups take place. Nobody died. In Nigeria, people died during democratic elections. And it is not a problem to the leaders. You want to build coastal highway. You want to do this. You want to do that. But you cannot commit resources to getting enough technology to power elections. As how now?
So you suspect there is a rigging plan?
I don't suspect. It is criminal intention to undermine the will of the people to ensure. Look, the whole idea is to ensure you crown incompetence and incapacitation even without an election. That is why nobody cares. INEC in 2023 said the total number of registered voters was about 93 million people, Uncle Seun. 87 million collected PVCs. Less than 30 million came out to vote. President Tinubu is seated at the villa with a mandate of less than 9 million. And it is not important that the people, the leaders will say, let us build confidence and trust in this process. More than 50 million people decided to sit out an election after taking the pains to register and collect PVCs. What is the reason? They simply do not believe in that process. They don't believe that what we come out to do counts.
Well, the presidency had said that the opposition is just using, is just disinforming and misinforming Nigerians about what is going on. And it does look like this is more than just the technicality around the amendment of the election. Is this politics that you are playing right now?
Politics with the lives of people. Between the president and I, who has been playing politics? President Tinubu came and was sworn in on May 29, 2023. By the end of 2023, billboards of renewed hope of President Tinubu were all over Abuja. So Tinubu began campaign the year he was sworn into office. Who has been playing politics with the lives of Nigerians? Do you know that from the budget defense of this year, the Ministry of Health of Nigeria, Federal Ministry, 2025 was approved a budget of about 218 billion. 36 million was released to the Ministry of Health for capital expenditure. The entire Ministry of Health. Uncle Seun, do you know that today in Nigeria we have more renewed hope campaign buses, more than Federal Ministry emergency ambulances? And that person is supposed to be master strategist. Who is playing politics with the lives of people? Me or the president and commander-in-chief? The opposition must do better. And that is why, look, all of this talk we are having is partly because the opposition have decided not to take themselves seriously. If the opposition unite and ensure that you give your ticket to a popular candidate and everybody works, President Tinubu will, they know that that defeat is imminent. Everything you are seeing is in panic mode. When you see a ruling party who has done so much,
even with all of this, the swelling in the political atmosphere, you see the city boy movement.
Yes, township girls and everybody.
You see the president's son is mobilizing a lot of young people. Yeah. The governors in the APC, they've started the renewed hope agenda movement, and you've seen a lot of the movement. The swelling is there. You see more activity.
Yeah.
How do you think? And they've done a lot of digital membership registration of their part. They look more serious. It looks like the opposition itself is not serious.
The power of the people will always prevail if they unite and act decisively. Everything that the ruling party is doing is what is good. You use the word swell because the APC has been swelling and it's not growing. And you know that when you swell, there is a tendency that you will implode. When you talk about the president's son and all of that, these are part of the issues that will be interrogated by the campaigns and the Nigerian people. This is the first administration we have in Nigeria. When Nigeria, it is like you go for a Black Friday market. That is what the Tinubu presidency is like. When you buy one and you get 3 free. So when INEC gives you the father as the president of the country, you then deal with the office of the wife, you deal with the office of the first son, you deal with the office of first daughter, you might even have office of the extended family members. Up to the extent that it became so bad that Professor Wole Soyinka, who is also a friend to the president, President Tinubu, said he saw the security that was with the president's son. Professor Wole Soyinka had to call somebody in the presidency and said, what is going on? That The military that President Tinubu sent to quell tensions in Benin Republic were unnecessary. That the security he saw alone with the president's son would have been enough to stabilize Benin Republic. Professor Wole Soyinka, the military, the security with the president's son. Do you know that within 7 months in 2024, Nigeria spent more than 1 billion on forex and travel of the office of the First Lady alone? President Tinubu, within 2 years, has spent more than 38 billion on forex or presidential travel. So President Tinubu spent 38 billion to travel to foreign countries only to import poverty. Because guess what? Today, more than 7.2 million small and medium-scale enterprises have crumbled in Nigeria under the weight of the economic reforms of the master strategy. You push more people into poverty, but guess what makes our own poverty very peculiar and unique? It is a taxable poverty. So you see 140 million people in poverty. The plan is not to pull them out of poverty. It is not to end insecurity and increase production. It is to tax and levy them. So for us, the ruling party can continue the masquerade dance and the charade. Nigerians must wake up and mobilize. Realize that the odds are stacked against you. In Nigeria, it is strong men that work and not strong institutions. So there is a tendency for you to feel despondent, but you do not, because there is no other option. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors. Tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. Bad governance does not exist in a vacuum. We are the collateral. Once the people unite and say, this is what we want, Nigeria has more than 60% youth population. You can decide an election. Everything that you are seeing is a shadow that is to threaten and frighten everybody, to say, oh, it has been taken. Biologically, even the president is frail. The personal physical stamina that is needed to govern a country like Nigeria is absent in this government. Look at the outing in Turkey. Nigerian APC people are standing on a mandate that is collapsing. That is where Nigeria is today. President Tinubu should be fair to himself. You have lived to a good old age. What has God not given yourself and your family? A former governor, senator, your wife a senator. At what point do you say you should make sacrifice for the country to move forward? Where you allow young persons with the mental agility. Old age is not a curse, it's a blessing. Why the desperation? To hold on to power at all means. President Tinubu left. America came and dropped bombs in Nigeria in December 2025 on Christmas Day. 2 days after that, the president jetted out of the country to France. Spent a total in January of about 27 days. He came back on the 17th, then left to Turkey without addressing Nigerians about what exactly is happening between the US and Nigeria. Guess what? It was while the president was in France, Nigerians then heard that you gave the second highest national honors, GCON, to your personal friend, Mr. Gilbert Shogri, a convicted money launderer in the United States, who was also convicted for aiding a criminal organization. What a country. Is this a president? Is this what leadership is about?
But, I mean, you seem to have a grouse to grind with the president.
Not the president, with the government. I don't know President Tinubu. I have no business with him. I have a problem with the office.
You don't like the APC?
I don't need to like the APC. The APC should love Nigeria to defend and protect.
And you don't think that the APC is doing the work for Nigeria?
You make your assessment. Today, as we are, even you as the press, there are certain things that you will see on television or whatever. The NBC will come after you. Even when you have a Freedom of Information Act, you have whatever that it is. Everybody is under pressure and tension because the institution have caved into the hands of political actors.
You mentioned that the opposition should come together, get a candidate that can really give the president to what does a candidate look like? Who do you think this candidate could be?
The APC knows, the ADC knows, Nigerians know. A candidate,
the person that can beat APC.
Yes.
Who is
there
this
are different
person?
people who can beat APC.
Okay.
But as it is in the coalition today, the coalition knows exactly the yearnings. And if you try to put aside the yearnings of the young population in this country, you are going to be running yourself into a very tight corner and a difficult situation. You saw it in 2023. A man came from nowhere. They said he had no structure, he had nothing, but somehow was able to get about 6-point-something million votes. You must ensure that what is before the coalition is to show that you are different from the APC.
You are talking about Peter Obi.
I mean, in 2023.
You think that Peter Obi is a candidate that can defeat?
If Peter Obi has a ticket from the ADC and gets a viable candidate before 1 o'clock, they will be packing things from the villa out.
But Tinubu beat Peter Obi in 2023.
With which result? And that is what we are telling you now. What caused the glitch in 2023? Where exactly did the votes come from? You lost Lagos. Do you know that Peter Obi beat Tinubu home and away. Tinubu left Etiosa Ikoyi in Bodilon where he lives. He voted in Alausa and Ikeja. Obi won Ikeja and Alausa. Tinubu lost FCT. The elections and the magic that happened is known between Yakubu Mahmoud, Buhari, and the Tinubu, and them as how INEC announced the result in the middle of the night when men were asleep. So as it is today, the ADC has a decision to show that you are different, because even part of the coalition there are people who also helped to form the APC. We should not forget that. So as it is, the question will be, what are you doing differently? Are we disgruntled because we just want to change thief? Because you are not benefiting from this current trend of stealing. So let us change a better thief that will favor me. So that when it favors you, it becomes grace and testimony. No. The ADC must show that it is interested in the well-being of Nigeria. Look at a lot of the persons who are also leaders in the ADC. Some are octogenarians, some are, in their 70s and in their 80s. Let the aspirations of the young people guide your decision-making, not desperation to take power that is useless.
So you're advising the ADC that if they want to defeat Bola Tinubu and the APC, Peter Obi is the likely person that can get the job done.
Does anybody need to advise the ADC? Amongst whatever that they are doing, whether they want to come to, zoning or whatever part of it and however that they want to put it, the opposition needs to work together. The opposition needs to come together and get a candidate. Look at what happened in 2014. They picked a Buhari who had, a following from the north, and everybody. Let us be clear that every person in the coalition today has the capacity to run and become president of the country. The question is, what is expedient at a certain time?
Between Peter Obi and Atiku in the ADC, who do you think could actually get the job done? Considering Atiku's personality, he had more votes than Peter Obi in the last election. And there are those who say, if both of them pair, there might be a formidable force against the ruling party in 2027.
Because, of course, that statement is coming because they paired in 2019. As it is today, sir, do we want to move backwards or move forward? The personal physical stamina that is needed to be president and to lead this country is quite an experience. Do you want to have... Remember that we had a Buhari who was in government.
So you are disqualifying Atiku because of...
I'm not disqualifying anybody. What I'm saying is
you are thinking that Peter Obi is far and above Atiku in the pecking order, in your own view, in terms of selection of who can get the job done.
What I'm telling you, Atiku has been vice president. Obi has been governor. Everybody, they all have their capacities in their different rights. The opposition must work together as a team. In this working together, you must ensure that you mirror the aspirations of young people and to get a candidate who has not just the competence, but the character and the proven track record to stand with the people and to show that when it comes to government, there can be accountability and due process where people can believe in that system. And that is why I'm telling you about the factor of the personal physical stamina, mental agility that is needed. And we had a Buhari.
And that is in Peter Obi.
We had a Buhari. Peter Obi. Well, look, if you look at even the disposition of the APC, look at, the APC will try to make you believe that Peter Obi is probably, they will say he's a social media president. They say he cannot win this. But when you put it side by side with the kind of attention and obsession put on Peter Obi, does it not, give you cause for concern? Have you noticed that people who support Tinubu talk more about Obi than their principal who they work for, the master strategists? If you look at Bayo Ononuga, when there is a blunder from their government, instead of coming out to explain what the current government is doing, they will tell you what would Peter Obi had done. That should tell you everything that you need to know. So what I'm telling you, because you did not, I'm not yet as holding brief for Peter Obi. I do not work as.
But you're a lover of Peter Obi.
I voted for him in 2023.
Would you still vote for him
if he gets the ticket in 2027?
If he doesn't get the ticket,
then we are going to look for candidates. Look, Nigeria is not one man's. I don't know how to put it. There is no, say, a messiah. There are leaders that are good for a time. It does not mean, if the system is working, Mr. Seun Okinbaloye, if you have the competence and capacity, you can be president of this country. You can be the Senate president. I can be the speaker. I can be Senate president. Our brother and sister here. We do not have to have that it is because everybody puts hope on one person. It takes a bunch of leaders who know what they are doing. So in 2027, even aside from the presidency, there must be deliberate attention put on the National Assembly to drain the swamp, to ensure you do not pack it with a bunch of invalids who have no desire to better the country. So as it is today, it is up to Nigerians, both the people who are suffering, the millions of victims of this rudderless leadership, and the leaders in the opposition to think of a way to salvage this country and not a way to satisfy personal political wishes and ambitions. We had a Buhari who kept treating ear infections overseas. Buhari kept traveling to check his doctors in London. We have a current one who goes to France. At the end, less than how many years after leaving office, Buhari died and was returned as a cargo to the country. A person who had been president for 8 years, military president, head of a petroleum commission in the country. We could not have one hospital that could take care of you. You died in a private hospital overseas. Come on now, Uncle Seun. At what point do we say enough of this recklessness and rascality?
But is it possible that for a moment you might be able to see reasons from what this government is doing and work for the Tinubu government?
Work for the...
If they say, oh, Peter, come, sit down, this is what we are doing.
You know, this question you would ask now is to now for me to tell you about my DNA like Reno Mokri and how my DNA cannot... Because, you know, he was even on your show recently and he was telling you how he's not working for Tinubu, but for Nigeria. And I was, how mischievous and ridiculous can a response
You say
be?
you are Peter for Nigeria.
Peter for Nigeria.
So if the government calls you to work for Nigeria,
my loyalty is to Nigeria. I do not defend known drug lords, according to Reno Mokri. I do not work for criminals in office to earn my next meal ticket. The truth is enough to protect me.
But what's your own stand?
My stand is that as it is today, the APC is an affliction. It is a curse.
So if the APC wins in 2027,
yes,
would your views still change?
My views are constant as it regards justice, equity, fairness, accountability, integrity.
But you know that democracy is the voice of the minority, the will of the majority.
The majority want a better country. The majority of Nigerians want security.
So, but when the majority have their way
yes,
and they vote, even if you don't agree with them,
yes,
do you still concede?
Look.
Because there are those who will say, the majority wanted Bola Tinubu in 2023.
Look, the majority is relative, Uncle Seun. Let us not be confused.
The majority voted for the Electoral Act Amendment as it is. You don't agree with it. But the minority are their say. So in 2027, what if the majority's voice is not your own kind of idea?
Let me be very clear with you. Let me respond to that. Let us also know that if we go by the INEC results, Tinubu is an unpopular candidate, even if we go by the 2023 election results. If you add the votes of the people who
it's
voted
not popular,
for Atiku,
but he had a popular vote.
He, according to INEC, got the majority of the votes of all the candidates. Where I'm driving at is to point you to the fact that if you add the votes of both Obi, Atiku, Kwankwaso, it then means the people who voted for Tinubu are more than people who voted for him. The issue was that there was a splinter of the votes across the opposition candidates, which brings us to why we must have a united opposition. I don't know if you get what I mean. So as it is, you cannot even say it is a government that enjoys outright majority, because from the election that produced you, those who voted against you were more. When you talk about the National Assembly having a majority, the question first you will need to ask is, how did the people who are there get there? Are they truly representing the people, or they are there to represent themselves? Uncle Seun, did Godswill Obodakpabio contest the APC primary to be a senator, or he contested to be a presidential candidate in the APC? How did he end up in the National Assembly, let alone becoming the chairman of the National Assembly and the Senate president? So we need to interrogate how the people who got there found themselves there. And then we ask the question, is the Senate president representing a senatorial district, or he's representing Tinubu and subsection of the APC aspirations in that assembly? So as a people, when you talk about policies and whether in 2027, my principles and loyalty to country are constant. Whether a person like Peter Obi or Atiku or Rotimi Amechi or any other person becomes president, even you, I am not subservient, or I am not a sycophant. I'm not a political jobber. I will hold everybody accountable, and even if I become a leader tomorrow, if God willing, I expect you to hold me accountable. Tinubu is not a monarch. He's supposed to have been sworn in by the Constitution. He's a servant to the people. You cannot rule people with such disdain and impunity. You cannot debate human life. I mean, Seun, Uncle Seun, I'm sorry. How do you have a situation where a person who is commander-in-chief goes to Yelwata in Benue State, where more than 200 people were killed. They lined up children in the rain to greet you. You did not go to Ground Zero, the Yelwata community. You stopped at Makodi and you said because the roads were not good, you could not go to see the people. As we are talking today, has the president cleared his schedule to visit Kwara State? So what we are seeing is a normalization. APC has set a dangerous precedent where people will die, insecurity will fester. Uncle Seun, do you know that in Katsina State, according to Dr. Usman and the report, terrorist elements killed an ACP, Aminu Dai, one of a fine police officer who was taking the fight to these terrorists. They celebrated the killing and then they had their usual stakeholder summit that they wanted to have a peace deal with the government. And guess what? The terms and conditions of that meeting were set by the terrorist element. The leader, according to the report, is Jankari. They told them that law enforcement should ensure that the police and law enforcement who will come should come in mufti. And guess what? The terrorist leaders came in the uniform of the slain police officers. In Nigeria today of master strategies, terrorists hold meetings with government officials. And guess who sets the terms and conditions? The terrorists. May God forbid this as leadership. What Nigeria is today is the textbook definition. What Tinubu is providing for Nigeria is the textbook definition of how not to govern a country. Nigeria today exists so that other countries can learn how not to govern their countries.
The recent prosecution of someone like Nasir El-Rufai, former AGF, Abubakar Malami, and the opposition is saying that the ruling party should be careful in what they describe as selective prosecution.
Yes.
Is that your view too?
It should be the view of every person. It was a former APC national chairman, this current senator representing Edo North, Adams Oshomole, who made a public statement that when you come to our party, your sins are forgiven. And that is what we are seeing glaring, brazenly plain before our eyes. A former governor of a state was accused of laundering money, stealing money more than 80 billion. According to EFCC's own evidences, he paid school fee for children in advance. Today, they say the case is in court because you even interviewed the EFCC chairman and he was visibly angry that Nigerians are putting pressure on that case. The court has granted, the former governor of Kogi State permission to take his passport to go and pray. So in Nigeria, you can steal money from the people, then you go to the Holy Land to pray. What do they tell God? And then guess what? There are now reports that that same person has become nominated into the campaign, the convention committee of the APC. But people in opposition, the eagle of the EFCC's eyes are open. When it comes to people in the ruling party, it needs medicated glasses. When you see eagle eye of EFCC running around like this, you know, say, oh, maybe they have seen Yahoo boys. They want to go to one hotel to break in. They want to do this. Meanwhile, immediately they see the real Yahoo boys in government who are stealing billions. The EFCC eagle will begin to get paradise. It will begin to get cataracts in their eyes. What a shame. President Tinubu and APC should know that power is transient. No matter how long you stay in power, if you don't leave power, power will leave you. You cannot be commander-in-chief forever. Through one way or the other, you will leave. Even the greatest of dictators have an end. Let Nigeria be. If you want to become Pharaoh, Pharaoh, let my people go. Nigerians must liberate themselves.
You mentioned that some Nigerian youths are being despondent.
Yeah.
And rightly so. A lot of them don't go out to vote.
Yeah.
Would anything change in 2027 if they do the same?
If they decide to sit out, the Nigerians are, this is our situation. Nigerians are like people who are taken hostages. And instead of people to unite and collectively fight for their liberation, some persons are giving excuses as to why you can never be liberated, while some are cooperating with the hostage takers, which empowers them. It is up to everybody, and I continue to say this, no matter how long oppression over a people may have lasted, once the majority say enough, it will be enough. In 2027, Nigerians have an opportunity for us to chart and take back our own destinies in our hands. Calculate everybody that is holding Nigeria ransom. How many are the politicians in the National Assembly, in the presidency? Let's say give and take, let there be 20,000 people. As against how many Nigerians? Millions of people have become completely captured. So it gets to a point where you become an accomplice to your own oppression. If this is not working, wake up. Nigerians, wake up. Do not say that, and that is why we will begin this aggressive campaign. We will look for the resources, because even whether the Electoral Act is amended or not, we must continue. Nation building is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Nigerians must go and begin to register for their voters card. Ensure that you come out to vote. They do not want you to do so. Please do.
Randy, Peter Akah, Peter for Nigeria, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.